good afternoon from MWC 2024. I'm here together with Olson Onyango, Head of Financial Inclusion and Architect at GSMA. Hello, Ashley.
Hi.
Ashley, mobile money in Africa is a big topic. I mean, it opened a lot of opportunities for people in the continent, and it's actually an economy booster. So if you look back at 2023, what would you say were the highlights of Africa and financial inclusion, and probably also put the light on where we're still struggling, where we need to improve?
Yeah. Well, it's great that you asked. We're actually just finalizing our annual State of the Industry report on mobile money, which we put out every year to show exactly what you just asked, right? What are the highlights? What are the growth areas? Where are the challenges? So we are launching that on March 19th. We'll be able to give you a lot more information then. But what I can say is that, we continue to see double-digit growth. West Africa is trailblazing now, like really moving fast, and adoption rates are really growing. And we've done a whole feature on West Africa because now the uptake in West Africa we're seeing is really, really strong. Diversification of revenue. So, initially mobile money providers were seeing their revenue really dominated by peer-to-peer transaction fees, consumer fees, and now we're seeing this grow, and the increase of government transactions and B2B transactions and other revenue streams. So that's wonderful because we're seeing it diversify. Which is great for the sustainability side and great for the consumers because that means they have access to more areas of usage. Some of the areas that I think we're still challenged, we still see a huge gender gap. So mobile money account ownership for women is still lower than that of men. Some markets, we've seen great progress. Some markets, we're nearing equity and parity, but others, there's a lot of work to be done. That remains a key concern of ours. I would say international remittances is an area where we're seeing great promise and acceleration, but we're still struggling to open corridors to allow mobile money to really be the channel for those. So those are some of the key highlights, but please tune in on March 19th and we'd love to share more about the rest of the stats.
All right, thank you, we will. Let me just ask a question regarding the gender gap. So what do you think is the reasons? Because they have no mobile handset, or do you think they're somehow suppressed, they should not have a bank account actually, or
Yeah.
what is your experience?
Yeah, so lack of, first of all, mobile handset ownership is one of the first, critical elements of having a mobile money account. But even when women do have a mobile handset, we find that their awareness is lower than that of men, their awareness of mobile money services, and then their adoption is lower. And this could be a wide range of things, and I think it's very market specific as well. There's social barriers. Women tend to have lower financial and digital literacy skills than men, so it's an area that we want to work on. It's different within each market, and we do try to look at it and say, how can we address it with mobile operators in their specific context and in their market? Data is huge, so wherever we can get data to really understand what those barriers are or how we can better serve women, that's what we're trying to do together with mobile operators.
All right. So we could say that you saw a big progress over the last year. So we improved a lot. So.
We've seen progress. I don't know if I would say it's big, but we've seen progress. But you have markets like Kenya where there's a very small gender gap, and that's awesome. And Kenya is a much more mature mobile money market. So I think that gives us a lot of hope that, in other markets which have maybe a more nascent mobile money industry and the gender gap is still a bit wider, it's like, how can we kind of look at Kenya and see what they did to close that gap as they matured as an industry?
So Kenya could be a blueprint.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you for that. MWC 2024, so you just lately announced a strategic partnership with Visa. Can you tell us a bit more and how exciting that is for the market?
Yeah, absolutely. We're super excited to work with Visa. They've got a real, powerhouse looking at financial education globally. And what we've been able to work on them with is to say, how can we translate that and work in the markets that we work in with mobile money providers, building localized digital financial literacy content, exactly to the point I just mentioned, where women have more barriers and access to adoption because of literacy, and we want to fill that gap. But we're looking at 4 consumer groups. So we're looking at women, women, we're looking at smallholder farmers, nano, micro, and small merchants, and refugees. And so we want to really target those consumers and work on building their capacity, knowledge, and skills so that we can see adoption rates increase, we can see gaps close, we can see usage increase as well, and then ultimately all of this leading to financial health, right? So not financial inclusion for inclusion's sake, but really leading to improving livelihoods and supporting their resilience.
Okay, thank you. Would you say that mobile money is really, let's say, a booster for small businesses and, let's say, farmers in order to, let's say, create more revenue, be quicker, and just also, let's say, grow?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, more revenue grow, but I think also it's a kind of a means to other financial services, right? If you have been operating in cash with your business, whether you're a smallholder farmer or a merchant, and you suddenly want to grow your business and you need some credit to do that, you have zero transactional history, it's more of an informal business, it's really hard to then get credit to grow. So we see like digital payments as sort of a gateway to open up other possibilities for small businesses and farmers alike, right? So thinking about how they can leverage that transactional history, that digital economic identity essentially, to then access other services.
All right, thank you. Africa is a very young continent. I mean, we're talking about how to connect the next billion. So what is your outlook, especially when you see it from financial inclusion perspective, how that also could help?
Yeah, it is a young continent. I mean, I think financial services is such an important element and really supports people, all their aspirations and what they want to do in life. And the more we see digital finance really take hold in these markets, it really opens up a lot of opportunities for youth, right? And starting small businesses or engaging in an e-commerce market, thinking about broadening their network beyond where they're kind of based. And so it really can support that growth and that aspiration that many young Africans have in whether it's business, professional, or in their personal lives as well.
Wouldn't you say we still have a lot of work to do from an educational perspective to raise the awareness that is not a bad thing to create a, let's say, digital financial track record or transaction record, because it could help it. The earlier you start, the more probably, let's say, security you could show towards a bank or a mobile operator.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I think we definitely want to support and advocate for people to start their digital financial economic identity now, right? Because then they can build that transaction history, and they'll have something to show. And a lot of mobile money providers are offering really interesting opportunities now where they can separate personal and business accounts, and that gives them a lot of opportunity to then really separate it out and say, this is what my business is doing from a financial perspective. Yeah. And it doesn't get convoluted with their personal expenses or personal incoming transactions. And that's great because then they can really see it. And then, the opportunities are boundless, right? You can do data analytics. You can provide support on maybe if it's a small merchant, inventory management, or you can look at, digital credit with your supplier or credit terms. So that I think is really fascinating and can be a real engine for small businesses as they start, entrepreneurial businesses.
So we see a lot of, let's say, development from a technology perspective. We have a lot of vendors, we have a lot of great ideas and initiatives. What would you say from a governmental perspective? Do you think the political will is still a bit limited in order, let's say, to do the next steps and to help to, let's say, really bank more of the unbanked?
I think the political will is there. I mean, we're seeing great movement with national financial inclusion strategies. Digital is being recognized as one of the catalytic elements in a lot of those strategies. On the regulation side, we've seen regulators be very innovative and very open to innovation. It's scary and it's there's risks involved, but they've done some really impressive work to facilitate that. I think a great example of this recently is Ethiopia, right? Launching their regulatory sandbox for mobile money. It's a very nascent market with the recent regulatory changes to allow for other providers to come in, and we see this as a great step to saying what more can we innovate around in this space and how can the regulator facilitate that?
Oh, okay, thank you. I talk a lot here with a lot of the exhibitors, people from GSMA and associations about AI. So it's a big topic at this year's show. How do you see it in perspective financial inclusion, mobile money services? Could it be a booster in terms of efficiency? So for what could we use AI? We also learned we should not use it just for everything. We still need our human touch and we should use it wisely. What is your take on AI?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you 3 examples where I think we're starting to see, examples of use cases within the mobile money sector. One is on fraud management. So identifying frauds and scams, identifying patterns, behaviors, anti-money laundering, looking at counter-financing terrorism. So huge impact can be had in that space. Secondly, we're looking at the data sometimes that mobile money providers have about their consumers is lacking, right, or inaccurate. So we're looking at how do we leverage AI or machine learning to really understand who that consumer is, despite maybe some inaccuracies in the data that's been input. And then they can better identify which, the products that they need to develop or who they're really developing for. So that's another area. And the third area is really around digital credit. I think that's a key space, right? Leveraging AI to think about how do we understand and determine the creditworthiness of a consumer based on all this massive data we might have, and how do we pull it together to really say this person, is looking for credit, they can have this much credit, the creditworthiness, what they can absorb and what they can actually service.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
There was Tech Africa News from MWC 2024. You can find more on techafricanews.com.